I'm Claire Dooley. You're watching CHGTV, and this is the Geoengineering Report, where we identify the threat in the skies. In this segment, we take a hard look at the political paralysis surrounding climate engineering. With false solutions like solar panels and electric cars dominating the conversation, real environmental threats remain untouched and unspoken. Dane Wigington with geoengineeringwatch.org explains why waiting for leadership to act is a losing strategy and why public awareness is the last line of defense.
So if the administration are not going to do anything about it, what can we, the people, do? Is there anything we can do to stop
Yes. Yes. Absolutely yes. And again, I know this is a gloves off message because doing otherwise that's why we're in this mess. How many environmental documentaries do we see that talk about, yes, the environment's bad, it's damaged, but just buy a solar panel and a Prius and we'll all live happily ever after? That is absolute nonsense. That's not how the story is going to end. We need to first examine our philosophies, Polly, because we live in populations that have been, again, taught, trained, programmed from birth that life's about personal pursuits of pleasure. That's why we're here. And if anything threatens that, you want to ignore that, right? And that's what's brought us to this dark place. If we decide that we're here for a reason, for a purpose, and certainly that would be to preserve some future for our posterity, would it not? So if we adopt that purpose and we all collectively address this issue effectively, efficiently, we're playing chess, we need to learn how to play well. Share credible data from a credible source, wake those up around you, ask them to do the same. If we can force this issue to the full light of day, Polly, we'll cause a shockwave around the globe. We will overturn this paradigm, and populations will know what their governments have done to them without their knowledge or consent, including our government, this administration, every other administration before it, going back a very, very long way, including before JFK. This goes all the way back. These programs were first fully deployed after World War II. So every administration in that chain has been actively or passively involved.
A storm of ethical quandaries and unforeseen consequences brewed beneath Operation Popeye's weather manipulation. In 1971, a Washington Post article by reporter Jack Anderson exposed that the U.S. was covertly engaging in weather weaponization in Vietnam. This revelation was backed by the Pentagon Papers leak from Daniel Ellsberg. The following year, New York Times journalist Seymour Hersh reported on Operation Popeye with the headline, "Rainmaking is used as a weapon by the U.S." Just days after this story was published, the entire program was officially terminated, and all cloud seeding missions were halted. Democratic Senator Claiborne Pell, disturbed by the news, demanded the declassification and public release of the Operation Popeye specifications. The program's annual cost was approximately $3.6 million, covering the operation and maintenance of modified aircraft, the purchase of seeding materials and salaries for the personnel involved. The public, particularly environmental activists, were outraged to discover that the U.S. had been secretly manipulating the weather in Vietnam. Operation Popeye was officially ended on July 5, 1972. In 1977, the U.S. became a signatory to the Environmental Modification Convention Treaty, an international accord that prohibited the use of weather modification for malicious purposes.
If everyone understood that it's what we put at the end of the dimming, that any one of us could be the final pebble that triggers the landslide of awakening, if we could fully awake populations, if we could fully push this issue to the light of day, we would have a chance of stopping it from the inside out, because those participating would realize they are participating in their own demise. Paul, how many do you see even now, especially pretend patriots, I would label them, waving their flags, don't question the government, we're going to print more money and everything's going to be fine, and which couldn't be further from the truth. But you see that kind of pretend patriotism, right? But how many are willing to examine, for example, the oath that they took, if they're in the military, to protect their citizens from all threats, foreign and domestic? You've heard that, right, Polly?
Uh-huh.
Well, how is engaging in these operations doing that? It's not. It's exactly the opposite. And so we have just like the spraying of Agent Orange in Vietnam. And were those pilots told this is going to kill your comrade on the ground eventually? No, they weren't told. So again, this boils down to people examining their reason for being and understanding that there is solace in facing the issue head on and knowing you're a part of the cure and not the disease. And if we all did that, we could yet make a profound difference even at this late hour. But people need to stop premising any effort they put out toward this dire threat on the condition that they have to have a happy ending. And if that prevents them from engaging in the fight in the first place, how can we have any hope of having a good ending? We can't.
We love hearing from you at CHGTV. We always are going through your emails and, sending them to each other and discussing the pictures you're sending and, whatever comments you're making. So please continue doing so. You can reach out to us at goodmorning@chg.tv. Thank you so much for watching the Geoengineering Report, and we'll see you next time on CHGTV.
Please forgive me if I ran for a moment on the memories from my former life, my life before the last 20 years of my desperate attempt to sound the alarm. I spent so much time on or near the ocean. I got my scuba certification at age 14. Being below the waves was always an escape to another world, a world that still made sense, a world in which I often felt I wanted to remain. And I feel so fortunate to have seen and experienced life below the surface of the sea in numerous parts of the world, in the waters off New Zealand, Australia, in the South Seas, Fiji, the most remote locations in the Sea of Cortez, the Gulf of California. But the vast majority of my diving sabbaticals were around all the shores of the Channel Islands off the coast of California. And how incredibly miraculous and thriving were the once expansive kelp forests there. I would meander in total solitude through these mystical undersea landscapes that were teeming with life. When the water clarity was at its best, the visibility could be well over 100 feet. And on such days, stunningly beautiful beams of sunlight would glisten down through the kelp stalks, rising up from so far below me. It was like being in the canopy of a long-lost medieval forest. Weaving my way through the massive kelp stalks in total silence, I felt like a wild and free bird flying through an untouched and unspoiled paradise of unimaginable beauty. So many species, all playing their individual part in the miraculous web of life. Seals, making their way through the kelp, would often alter their course, and they would swim up to me and stare right into my mask, directly into my eyes. They were curious. Many of my memories from the kelp forests now seem a very distant dream from another life. Moments that I knew, even while they were occurring, were slipping away. It was beautiful. It was nature, a part of the living ocean, a part of the web of life on which our lives depend. I had to leave that life. There was a constant calling of conscience inside me. I felt there was much I had to do, that there was a long journey before me, yet to be traveled. The deepest and most untraveled wilderness has always been my sanctuary, and when I trek there alone and in solitude, I feel most connected to the whole. I marvel at the complexity and the miraculousness of life, the countless forms of it. I try to contemplate the endless and seemingly impossible factors that were necessary for life to exist and flourish on this spinning ball of rock in the harsh and hostile environment of space. A ball of rock with its own magnetic shield, with its own moon that stabilizes its orbit, that orbits a life-giving star at just the right distance, with miraculous atmospheric layers that, for unimaginably long spans of time, have facilitated countless forms of life. How wondrous it all is, each part. A dragonfly, a tree, a bird, a whale, the sunrise, millions of tons of water magically floating through the sky in the form of spellbindingly beautiful clouds, bringing life-giving rain. When I witness the destruction of this miraculous web of life, I can only think of returning to the front line of the battle to sound the alarm. Reaching a critical mass of awareness in the population is the only way forward in this fight.
The challenges we face are immense. The odds are against us. But as the proverb goes, it's not over till it's over. Any one of us could be the final pebble that triggers the landslide of awakening.